A West Bloomfield singer is jazzing up the ABCs with a brand new song. The Jazz ABCs introduces kids to music concepts in a very engaging way, along with the program Tunesies, which is a musical education program for kids, which is done through classes, workshops, and performances. And here to tell us more about all of these great programs, we have Jesse Palter, a singer-songwriter right here in West Bloomfield. Jesse, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Really happy to be getting into this. Really love talking about music and great programs like this. So talk about a bit of your influences. How has growing up in West Bloomfield influenced your musical journey and your career choices?
So I grew up in a very musical household, which naturally just being exposed to a wide array of music from a really young age. I was like a sponge, just trying to listen and explore and discover everything. And then I would say getting involved in all sorts of musical theater, community theater. I went to at a middle school, which I believe is no longer. And I was involved in the specialty performing arts programs there. And then ultimately being close to Detroit. I grew up really when I came of age was going downtown, performing in the jazz clubs, performing with the real deal Detroit musicians. So definitely West Bloomfield influence and absolutely undeniably and so gratefully Detroit.
Awesome. I mean, absolutely. Growing up near a city like Detroit, you have access to so much incredible music and so many great influences. And it's awesome to see just what you've been able to take that knowledge and be able to do, because you did create Tunesies. And how do you see that program benefiting children and families in Greater West Bloomfield?
So I started Coonsies when I was living in Los Angeles, which is where I lived for 12 years. And it was during the pandemic when gigs were canceled. My touring had come to a halt. I really sort of need to figure out a way to not only keep my vocal mechanism warm, but also just like as a creative, I'm constantly itching to create. My best friend had just had a baby, and she asked if I would sing to her baby and her baby's pop, which I wasn't familiar with at the time, and I couldn't think of a reason that I should say no. So I showed up, and it was really this aha moment. I just realized that the children's music lane was sort of a wide open creative lane. All of the songs that parents wanted to sing, caregivers wanted to sing with their little ones, the same songs that I sang when I was a child, that parents sang. Wheels on the Bus and Itsy Bitsy Spider as a composer and somebody that grew up studying. I'm a jazz vocalist and a composer, and I really grew up studying the Great American Songbook. So when somebody says standards, that is a very familiar term for me. And I said, who's really updating these, children's standards? And so I was super inspired to, and I'm not only inspired, but like I felt very much a responsibility to sort of nurture this wide open lane. And then when I had my own child, I wanted to create the music experience that I would want my child to have. So fast forward, I am now living back in Detroit. And I have brought my program, which I've been working on and building curriculum for since 2020. I brought it here, and I am so grateful to be teaching pretty much 6 days a week, sometimes 3 times a day, all over Detroit, Metro Detroit, um, various age groups. And it feels to me like a responsibility, like a calling, but like very organic and inspired. I get such joy having performed for audiences all over the world. It is so joyful to be around human beings at their earliest musical experiences and to be able to experience that through them. Um, Thank you.
Wow, that is all incredible to hear. I love hearing about those aha moments because sometimes they come at the most unexpected of times. And it's great to see how you've been able to take advantage of that. And like I said, you've got some great stuff in the works. You've got an album that's going to be coming out very, very soon. And you've got something called the Jazz ABCs, one of those songs on the album. How does songs like that introduce kids to jazz? and what impact do you hope it has on early childhood music education?
This album that I recorded was recorded in New Orleans, and I really wanted New Orleans spirit to be all over the music. I worked with unbelievable musicians, some of my heroes. And I was afforded the opportunity to record this album through a grant from an organization called South Arts Grant Organization. And I knew that I wanted to incorporate a song that was sort of bridging all of the different influences that have made me the artist that I am today. Um, so people still actually, I think one of the number one children's songs is the ABC song, the alphabet song. And it really hasn't been updated. It's been around for centuries. And I was driving to teach one day and it hit me just like a ton of bricks. The song pretty much fell out of me. I grabbed my phone to record it, and in full, there's actually a video clip um, that is on my Instagram and my social media of me just like being the conduit of writing the jazz ABCs, and then recording it with this masterful jazz studio band in New Orleans is extremely special. I really think that we captured not only the fundamentals of jazz, um, from like a theoretical standpoint, but also from an execution of the musician's playing standpoint. That it's a top-notch band. One of my favorite saxophonists of all time, Joel Fromm, played on it. It just so happened that he was on tour in New Orleans, and he took a solo, so you're exposing children to improvisation, and really all of the instrumentation, orchestration of a jazz group. And these are sounds that are really palatable for little kids, but it's not as common as you would think. So my hope is that kids learn their ABCs through alliterated jazz fundamentals, which is what this song is, while being exposed to like the very authentic jazz.
Awesome. And again, working in an environment like New Orleans where jazz is in their blood. I mean, that's got to be incredible. And I know you touched on it a little bit, but what was it like being in that environment, and how do you feel that it helped to shape that project?
I think it completely shaped the project. It was very much this serendipitous week of what I believe is capturing lightning in a bottle. Everything just kind of worked out. Even the things that like didn't feel like they were working out in the moment all happened for a reason. Um, and the playful, improvisational, joyful essence of the city of New Orleans is all over this music from start to finish. And that is really the language of children is play. And that's really the language, music is the language of tunesies, but it's a play-based method. So I felt like we completely accomplished and all the pieces just sort of fell into place. So I'm so grateful for that. I really felt like we accomplished what we set out to do and more. And it was a wonderful start finish creative experience.
For those just joining us right now on The Splash, we have singer-songwriter Jesse Palter joining us right now to talk about her many programs that she's doing, and she's influenced by the great work in New Orleans and the Detroit music scene to benefit for her music program Tunesies and her original compositions. In fact, you also, along with the work you do for kids, you also released an album called Nothing Standard, a deeply personal jazz album featuring your own compositions. What was the process in returning to your jazz roots for an album like Nothing Standard?
So I think for a while when I was living in Los Angeles, I just had the desire to explore whatever sort of naturally kind of creatively inspired me. I don't really think of music in terms of genre, but it's a little different with jazz because it's a language that I studied. I went to school for jazz. I was at University of Michigan School of Music as the sole vocal jazz major for my year. Um, and I had gotten away from it a little bit. I was working with a record label and I was releasing stuff in a singer songwriter lane, which was also very deep personal to me. But when I parted ways with the record label and started reclaiming who I am as an artist, as an independent artist, it was integral to me for that process to also honor my roots as a jazz vocalist. And I had worked with the musicians on that album. I collaborated on the compositions with a longtime collaborator, Michael Jellick, who was my music director for many years and pianist, and also a bit of a mentor, a teacher. I learned a ton about music and harmony through working with Mike. And it was important to really honor all of the work that we had together. So I released that album, I think in 2022, and it ended up just really sort of hit off more than I could have anticipated, which I'm so grateful for. And which is really a reminder to like honor who you are as an artist and really trust your own artistic integrity.
Well, happy to hear about all of the success that came from this incredible album. And Jesse, I do want to ask, as you've hopped around quite a bit, you've been in Los Angeles, you've been in New Orleans, now that you're back here in Detroit, how do you see yourself continuing to contribute to the local music scene?
I think being a Detroit musician is so important to who I am as an artist. So no matter where I go, no matter where I've been as a performer, people always say, "Oh, where do you learn to sing with such soul?" And the answer is always Detroit. It's Detroit, and it's musicians that I grew up with, and the teachers that I had that really shaped me, and the experiences in the bandstand that I had that shaped me. Now that I'm back here and really nurturing, who I am as an artist and all of the many facets. Um, I never want to hinder that very innate part of me that is a Detroit musician, which I don't think I ever did hinder, but I just really want to like shine a light on all of the different facets of who I am. And again, feeling a tremendous responsibility to really nurture the future generations, specifically with this Tunesies project. So I am all around Detroit and Metro Detroit, working with kids and really trying to sort of share my passion and my joy and all the tools that I've learned as an artist to help the future generation explore them, who they are creatively and foster a love of music within them.
Well, it's amazing to hear of everything that you're doing, Jesse. One more quick question before we let you go. How can the West Bloomfield community support your work with Tunesies and your larger musical projects?
Thank you for asking. I am so grateful for the hometown support. I have a website, Tunesies, TUNEZIES.com. And I post all about my classes and my method. People can register through there. I'm also on all the social media platforms. So Instagram /Tunesies and Facebook /Tunesies. And I am now on all the digital streaming platforms with this music as we release song after song every 6 weeks. We're releasing a new single. So Jazz ABCs is out, and the next single coming out March 15th. So people can look online at their favorite digital streaming platform, YouTube included, because it is not only an auditory album, it's also a visual album. And so there's an animation for every single song. People can also listen and watch on YouTube at Tunesies and search on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music and Deezer and Tidal under Tunesies as well. And on the website as well, there's also an email address to contact me. And this has been just built from, it's been built for the community. It's really like me wanting to be of service with all the tools that I use as a musician and as a lifelong creative professional. So I really love hearing from everybody and getting feedback and just hearing what people want, what they need. It's been um, integral to building this community.
Well, we can't wait to see what's to come next with your incredible music journey. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today on The Splash Live.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful chatting, and I appreciate the support.